Hello everybody and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Kira and this is going to be another book review video. This book review is on the book Song of the Dryad. I will put a picture here on the screen. If you don't know the book Song of the Dryad, it is by a fellow author tuber here on YouTube. Her name is Natalia Leigh. And so in my quest to support as many author tubers as I can and read as many books by them as I can, here's another book by an author tuber that I read, Song of the Dryad. This is my review on it. I absolutely loved this book. 5 out of 5 stars. It was like the cutest book that I've read in a while since Non-Honeymooners. I don't rate books 5 out of 5 stars very often, and I was like, I wasn't even done with this book and I already knew. I was like, there's nothing is going to change how I feel about this book. So getting into the review, start off with a summary about the book. This book follows Charlotte. She lives in, I'm pretty sure she lives in Colorado, which is where Natalia Leigh lives, and her family lives in like a smaller town, and their house is set on the outskirts of a forest. And since Charlotte was young, she has always seen like creatures and stuff in the forest, but as she got older, it was she kind of started to like block them out because like her parents didn't believe her, and she just thought she was seeing things. So then she kind of just started to like block out the creatures that she would see in the forest and stuff, like when she was younger and like in the gardens of their house or whatever. And then flashing forward to present day, her mom disappears and the police spend this long amount of time looking for her, but Charlotte knows where she is because she's been kidnapped by the Dryad of the fairy realm, and Charlotte has been tasked with finding the 5 fairy stones to bring back to their rightful place because the fairies are losing their magic because of this. And there's also a company that is trying to take down the forest because they're going to build this big shopping mall. And so the Dryad has kidnapped Charlotte's mom as like a way to kind of like incentivize Charlotte into helping them. And yeah, so that's pretty much what the book's about. So going into the writing of this book was beautiful. This, like, the descriptions of everything, of like the fairies and just the forest and everything. I am so bad at doing book reviews on books that I like because I can't ever find a way to put my enjoyment or my love of whatever happened into words, and it was just beautiful is all I can come up with to at all explain how I feel about this book. But so then moving on to the characters, there are quite a few characters in the book, but I'm just going to talk about like the main ones that pop up the most. So there's the main character, Charlotte. She has like long brown curly hair. She plays the violin. I don't know why I did that. She's in high school. She's a junior, and she's a very she is prone to having headaches a lot, which is a result of her trying to block out the fairies and stuff and pretend like they're not there. And then she's a very down-to-earth person and empathizes with people a lot. And she also is kind of anxiety prone to just things in life, which I understand that. I am very anxiety prone to things in life. But she is she was very easy for me to relate to, which is probably why I love the book so much. She, just with her anxiety and the way that she presents herself and the stuff that she believes and like her family values and like everything, it was very like reminiscent of like me and like in high school and my family. So I very much enjoyed reading from her point of view, and I very much liked her as a character. I don't think that there could have been a better person, except for maybe Arthur, which is like the love interest in the book. I would have thought it would be kind of cool to see it from his point of view too, but I'm not the one that wrote the book, so it's whatever. So then, moving on to the next, there is Charlotte's dad, where he's a very hardworking person. He owns a restaurant in town, and so he's constantly working in the restaurant, and he comes home really late, but he's a very close relationship with Charlotte, and he is married to her mom, and like he loves her mom, and their whole family is just like very like, it's a good family dynamic. Like there's no, oh, I hate my mom because of blah blah, or like I talk about in my top 8 tropes that I hate. I will link it in the cards. One of the tropes that I hate is mean parents, bad family dynamics. There is not that in this book. The family dynamic between Charlotte and her mom and her dad, and then her grandma also lives with her, is awesome. Everybody is very supportive of everybody, and there's not like dad isn't an alcoholic and abusing people. Nothing like that. It's the family dynamic that I want in books. So then moving on to her grandma. Her grandma is very open-minded. She's retired, and she does a lot of like cleaning and cooking around the house, and she's very like cheerful and humbleized. Her grandma reminded me a lot of my grandma Sherry. My grandma Sherry hums everywhere she goes. She is retired. She lives with my mom. She is a very humble person. She's very open-minded. She loves all things spiritual, and I love my grandma Sherry. But Charlotte's grandma very much reminded me of my grandma, so that's also probably another reason why I love this book so much, because I love my grandma. And so there's that. There's also another person who pops up, I would say, the most before you get into like side characters that pop up is I keep on saying Arthur. But Charlotte calls him Art, and he is like the love interest of the book. He is the older brother of this boy. I think his name's Thomas. I can't remember what the little boy's name is, but Charlotte gives violin lessons to Art's younger brother, and so that's how she meets Art. And she, when she starts going on her like adventure into the forest and everything, she ends up telling him, like, she tries to research stuff about the fairies, and he's already very much into like fairy lore and everything, so he has like all these books, and he's like, here, let me give you my number and you can borrow my books for your research or whatever. And then she ends up telling him about the fairies, and he like instantly believes her and like is super supportive and is like, well, I'm gonna help you. And he he reminded me of my boyfriend. My boyfriend Colby is very much like that. If I came to him and told him that I was seeing fairies in the forest and that I needed to find these stones and I needed to retrieve them because the Dryad stole my mom and I needed his help, he wouldn't even think for a second that I was crazy. He would just be like, yes, I am going to help you save the fairies. So I think that's also another reason why I love this book so much, because Art reminded me of my own boyfriend, and of course I love my boyfriend, so kind of hard not to love Art. And then that's it for most of the characters. There's Charlotte's mom, where she's gone for like the entire majority of the book because she gets kidnapped. But her mom is like an artist, and her mom is very like floaty, and everything about the book is very like light and floaty, and it's like all cozy and warm, and you got the little fairies that she talks about, and they have their little like butterfly wings, and it's just everything is so nice in the book, and it's just so lovely, and I love it, and I love this book. So then moving on to plot wise, the book starts off with Charlotte, and she's giving violin lessons because she is saving up to go to college. She wants to get into this really nice music college that's like, I'm pretty sure it's in another country because she plays the violin and everything, and so she's very focused on that. And then she comes home, and you meet like her grandma and her dad, and then she talks about her mom being an artist and her mom's door is shut to her like studio and everything, but she decides not to bother her. And then the next day she wakes up and goes to school, and then she gets taken out of school early, which never happens, and it's because her mom is missing. And her dad is like, did you see your mom last night when you came home? And she was like, no, she was in her studio and I didn't want to bother her, so I just let her be and I went to bed. And so then the police spend this like a week searching the forest and the town and everything, trying to find their mom. And she keeps it very much under wraps and doesn't tell her best friend, who I can't remember her name of, what's going on. Her best friend has known her since she was like little, and she doesn't really want anybody to know that her mom's missing, because then all attention is going to be on her at school, and she's going to be the sad girl whose mom's missing. And then eventually the news does get out, and everybody thinks that her dad is the reason why her mom's missing, which then upsets her and her dad, because her dad loves her mom and she knows that her dad loves her mom and that she won't do anything to hurt her. So then just upsets her that everybody thinks that he would be the type of person to hurt her mom. So when they find out that her mom's missing, they talk to the police and everything, and then Charlotte sees this red scarf in the woods, which is this scarf that her mom wears all the time. So then she's like, oh my god, it's my mom, she's in the woods. So she like takes off into the woods, and then she ends up in getting transported to the fairy realm. After she gets to this area where there's these 5 blocks. It's kind of like Stonehenge, but minus a lot of the blocks. There's 5 stones that have like holes in the middle of them, and she ends up in the middle of there, and then she gets transported to the fairy realm, which is called Lyra. And that's where she meets the Dryad, and the Dryad explains that she has taken her mom, and that she will not give her mom back, and that she has until the next full moon, which is in 30 days time, to find all of the fairy stones and return them, because the fairies are dying and losing their power, and her family are the shrine keepers and we're supposed to be in charge of taking care of the fairies and helping them, but her great grandma, so her grandma's mom, like blocked it out, and so then her grandma in turn had it blocked out because her grandma's mom was like, no, like not talking about it. So then her grandma lost the sight and lost her ability to like see the fairies because she didn't believe in them anymore. So then Charlotte grew up and she could see the fairies, but then like her family didn't believe her, so she just was trying to block them out, but she still believed that they were there, so that's why she kept her sight up until at this point. So then the Dryad's like, you need to find all these fairy stones to give us our powers back, because the forest is dying and we're dying and we're running out of everything, like help us. And Charlotte's like, fine, if I help you, you're gonna give me my mom back. And she's like, yes, we will. And Charlotte's like, okay. So then Charlotte's kind of like, I don't really know how I'm supposed to like find these stones. And then she figures out they always have mud on their front porch, and she didn't know, like they thought there was raccoons or whatever, and then it turns out it's a brownie, which is a fairy type where they normally do tending to gardens and like sweeping and type of stuff, but as like a way to appease them or like show your appreciation for what they're doing, you're supposed to give them milk and biscuits. And since no one was giving him milk and biscuits for helping in the garden and everything, he turned into an angry brownie and in turn was throwing mud. So she like comes home and he like pelts her with mud, and she's like, oh my god, what the fuck? And so then she finds out that he's a brownie and is like, she tries to tell her dad and her grandma, like, mom's not actually missing, the Dryad took her and I need to help the fairies and like all this stuff. And her dad was like, that's nonsense, don't talk about that, don't pretend like you know where your mom is, I know she's not in the forest, like, this is not funny, like, a joking manner, we're not talking about fairies anymore. And so then her grandma was like, let's not talk about fairies around your dad. But then she was like, but you believe me? And her grandma was like, well, you're not normally, you don't lie, so why wouldn't I believe you? And so then Charlotte's like, cool. So her grandma starts helping her by like making biscuits, and she gives the biscuits and milk to the brownie, and then she ends up making friends with the brownie. And the brownie is like, shrine keeper, I know where the first stone is. And then she kind of can feel the energy of the stones, and then that's how she finds a lot of them, just like around town and everything. And then in the time of doing that, she makes friends with Arthur and finds out that Arthur's dad is the person who is destroying the forest. And Arthur has, like, expressed that, like, yeah, I've told my dad that, like, I don't agree with, like, what he's doing, but I've just kind of been written off as, like, into the hippie shit or whatever. And so then Arthur starts helping her with finding the stones and stuff, and she has to, like, appease a water nymph who tries to drown her, and then she finds out there's a coven, and just all this stuff happens. And just, it's like, it's hard to fathom everything that happens, because she finds out there's a coven, and the coven helps her do a ritual to show the water nymph that they are there to help her, because her pool that she had been in was, like, super polluted and everything, and she tried to drown Charlotte when she went to go get a stone that's at the bottom of the pool. And the fairies can't touch the stones because it's, like, too much power for them, and that's why Charlotte has to do it, because she has, like, the special power that, I just, like, stuck my finger in my mouth. She has, like, the special power that can, like, where she can, like, pick up the stones and everything. So then there's a lot of her, like, going to the fairy realm and talking to the Dryad more, and then finding stones, and then she gets really worried because she runs out of time before she finds the last stone, and, like, tells Art, she's like, the Dryad told me if I don't find the stones within the 30-day period that she's going to take another loved one. And so he's like, oh, another loved one, does that mean that you love me? And she's like, well, and then he ends up getting taken, but he's not really taken because of being a loved one. He's taken more because the Dryad knows that his dad is the reason why this forest is getting knocked down. So then Arthur's mom is in the coven of witches that she employed the help of, but she, like, the mom, like, told her, like, don't tell my boys, like, my husband obviously doesn't know because he is knocking down the forest. And so then she goes to her and is like, I know where Art is, and, like, explains everything to her. And then she's like, why would I believe you? But then, like, the little brother had, like, been around a lot when they were doing a lot of stuff. So then he was like, no, like, it's serious. Like, one of the fairies helped her when we were at the museum, and blah, 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 and, like, all this stuff. And so then the mom's like, okay, let's go. And then they have to go explain to Arthur's dad that, like, hey, this is where Arthur is, blah, 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 like, stop what you're doing, and then it'll bring him back. And then eventually he's like, okay, I'll stop what I'm doing, everybody go home. And all the workers are like, what? And he's like, get out of here. And then Arthur and her mom come home, and then from them being in the fairy realm, they were in, like, this, like, deep sleep. It gives them the sight to see the fairies, so, like, her mom and Art can see the fairies from that point on, and, like, everybody's happy. And one of the fairies at the very end ends up giving her this diary, which is from, like, her, like, great grandma or whatever, and then the story ends. So yeah, I kind of brushed over. I didn't want to go too into detail. I'm trying to make it, like, a little spoilish free, since I love this book so much. I bought it as a Kindle version for 99 cents. I will link the book in the description. Kindle, there's a paperback and a hardback. It's self-published, but awesome. If you don't know who Natalia Leigh is either, I will link her stuff in the description, but I'm assuming you know who she is. Or if you don't, then go watch her videos, because her videos are very down to earth. She's a very peaceful person. She is a freelance editor, and she has, like, a pet sitting business and everything, and she's vegan, and she shows, like, some of her vegan life, and she shows, like, her editing and, like, her writing her books and everything, and it's lovely. Anyways, moving on to just format, and I didn't finish my little outline on this because I have such a hard time talking about books that I love. But pretty much, I just love this book. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing that I could find that upset me about it. There's some areas in the ebook, in between chapters where there's, like, little artwork, like pictures of, like, the fairies and stuff sprinkled throughout the book, which is awesome. I loved that. All the descriptions were wonderful. There wasn't any, like, excessive descriptions, but they weren't, like, not enough of a description. All of the characters were very well fleshed out. Every character, like, had, a meaning and a purpose to being in the story. They just weren't, it's not like they were just there to be there. And it was a very well thought out book, and I love fairies and all things to do with just like lore, and there is I don't know where I was going with that sentence, but I love this book, so read it. This review isn't very good. I apologize. I didn't even write a better review on Goodreads when I reviewed it, because I can't put my thoughts into words. But, yes. So, if you like videos like this, please give this video a thumbs up. I am very into giving my opinion on the YouTubes. If you want to see more book reviews from me, I can put my playlist. I have like 9 other book reviews. Some of them are also very positive, some of them not so much. Go ahead and watch them if you want. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you want to see more book reviews from me. I plan to put out many more this year than I did last year because I like doing book reviews, and I have been told that some people enjoy my book reviews, so I will continue to put them out until people hate them. So, yeah. And, yeah, I post videos every Sunday and Wednesday. Sometimes I miss a day because my life is just getting in the way, so I apologize for that, but I am trying to post 10 times more consistently than I did last year, so I am already doing better than I did last year, so I pat myself on the back for that. So yeah, that's the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.